YouTube, what's up? This is Levi Jaeckel, and it has been a minute since I've been in this chair, in this garage, making a video. I'm feeling a little rusty. I'm feeling a little self-conscious, but we're going for it, all right? This is a video that I've been wanting to make now for way too long. We're gonna be talking about the G-Shock Rangeman, okay? We're gonna be talking about why I bought this watch. We're gonna be talking about the features that are really good. We're gonna be talking about the features that maybe aren't so good. We're gonna be talking about a couple weaknesses, because there are some big weaknesses. And then at the end, we're going to be talking about a lot of the fitness features of this watch, because that is why I bought this watch. And at the time that I bought it, there wasn't really a whole lot of information about how good or how bad the fitness tracking capabilities of this watch were. So that's what we're going to be covering. Let's get into it. So I bought the Rangeman almost a year ago, a little less than a year ago. It was like 9 months or so. But I bought this as a gift to myself, kind of as a celebration for completing our gym, okay? So this time last year, we were building out our gym. If you don't know, that's what I do for a living. I'm a strength coach. I'm a performance coach. That's my full-time job. And we had just finished completing our gym build. And so I wanted to kind of celebrate that, and I wanted to upgrade my watch. So historically, I've been kind of an Apple Watch user for all my fitness and data tracking. But during the gym build out, I switched to just like an old analog G-Shock. So I've had G-Shocks now forever. I love G-Shocks. And I switched over to the analog G-Shock because the Apple Watch wasn't tough enough to handle like construction work, which is what I was doing like full time for like 10 weeks. And so I switched watches. And after I got away from the Apple Watch, I actually like fell in love with kind of the analog watch again. And I liked being disconnected from my phone. And so that was about the time that I started looking into the Rangeman, because the Rangeman is kind of like a G-Shock with some technology capabilities. And so I decided to roll the dice and buy this one to kind of put it through its paces. So the whole idea is that I wanted to buy a watch that was durable, but that also could track some of the training data that I like to capture, some of the sleep data that I personally like to track. That was the whole idea. The next part of this was the battery life. So one of the big things that I hate the most about an Apple Watch is that you have to charge it relatively frequently. I have run this watch for 27 straight days. There were 3 nights during the 27 days that I did not track sleep, but other than that, it was tracking every single night. During that 27-day stretch, I also had 8 gym workouts, so like strength training workouts that I tracked. I had 3 runs, I had 1 ruck, and then 1 walk. So the reason that I bring that up is because during those activity tracking sessions, the battery is being strained a little bit more. As it's tracking your heart rate, as it's tracking your movement, for the run, the ruck, and the walk, it's also connected to the GPS. 27 days on a single charge with all that activity, with the sleep tracking, that's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. If I were just to use it as just a straight up watch and shut off any of the heart rate monitor or the movement tracking or the GPS, like I feel pretty confident that you could get a few months off of a battery life pretty easily. Now, another thing advertised by G-Shock is obviously like the toughness and the durability, okay? And it's kind of, you know, some of the G-Shock models are advertised as being like end of world pieces of gear, okay? You know, like if everything goes dark, like you know that you can trust your G-Shock to keep working. Unfortunately, I actually have used this exact G-Shock in a handful of extreme situations, all right? So last fall, we got hit by Hurricane Helene and we got hit by Hurricane Milton. During that time, I was actually using the tide graphs on the Rangeman and the barometric pressure. So during Helene, our neighborhood got crazy flooded. A lot of the houses on our street got flooded. A lot of them had to get torn down. Some of them still are vacant. So it was a pretty big deal. And I literally was up in real time watching the tides come in, watching the tide graph, and then tracking the barometric pressure simultaneously. I didn't buy this watch for those features, but I was in a situation where I used that. During Hurricane Milton specifically, I was tracking the barometric pressure. It was crazy to watch it drop. And it was also kind of like a peace of mind thing when I knew that the worst of the storm had actually passed our area. And as the pressure started to rise, I knew like, okay, we were kind of through the worst of it, all right? So interesting. You know, I didn't really buy this to experience something like that, but it was a tool that did come in handy. I have used this watch at the beach. I've used it snorkeling. And I absolutely love it. You know, for, you know, extreme activities, outdoor activities like that, this watch really does shine. Way tougher than an Apple Watch is going to be, but more functional than like an old school analog dumb watch G-Shock model would be as well. Okay, so let's get into the main part here, the fitness tracking. We've already mentioned, like, it does have a heart rate monitor. It does have like some type of activity tracker, you know, so it can track movements during strength training sessions. And then it does have a GPS. I'm typically a strength-based athlete. Most of my training sessions are done in a gym. So, you know, tracking all the weight room training, it's very good at all of that stuff. I'm super confident in the durability of this thing. I have banged it all over the place and there's not a single scratch on this screen. I've got a couple of dings on like the case, but whatever, you know, like I don't care about that at all. For strength training stuff, it works great. It's not so big that it, you know, limits movement in any type of way. It stays in place. It's a really comfortable watch to wear. During all my strength training sessions, I haven't had a single complaint. At the start of this year, I started running, okay? This was probably gonna be a topic on a couple different videos, but I decided that on my 35th birthday, I was gonna run the first half marathon of my life. So up until this point, the most I've ever run is 5 miles. And so I figured, you know, a half marathon for my 35th birthday would be pretty cool. That's coming up in May. And so I've been changing my training to obviously accommodate the half marathon volume. For the last few months, I've been like ramping up my volume on there. As I've been running, I've been using the running feature and using the GPS feature. The only complaint that I have is that sometimes it does take a long time to connect to the satellite to start that GPS tracking. My house is kind of located near a military base. I'm not sure if it's in my head. I feel like when I'm around my own neighborhood, it does take extra long to connect to a satellite. I'm not sure, you know, if that's accurate or not, but when I'm running at different areas of town, it seems to connect much quicker. Some days are better than others. Some days it connects really quickly, and then other days it does actually take a long time. If I'm in a pinch, like if I'm in kind of a time crunch, that is super annoying. You know, I'm trying to connect and it doesn't really connect, and I know that it connected yesterday and I don't know why it's not connecting today, but you know, that is what it is. I haven't had that issue anywhere else other than my own local neighborhood. Maybe that's coincidence, but that is sort of annoying when that happens. Now, I understand that this G-Shock is not gonna be as connected or as robust on the technology side as like an Apple Watch will be, okay? So an Apple Watch is like on the far end of the technology spectrum. I think Garmin is a little bit better on that side, you know, than maybe Casio and G-Shock is at this time. I knew coming into it that the technology wasn't gonna be that great, but I've been pleasantly surprised, I say. It's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. This will connect to the Casio app. I have gone months and months without connecting it to the app. Usually I disconnect it, like you can actually like tell it to shut off any phone connections. So usually that's how I rock it. There is no phone connection at all. It stores all my workout data in here. It can store up to 100 different workouts, so I can go back months really if I'm like tracking workouts. Just within the actual watch, I can go into it and look at, you know, runs that I was doing Christmas or, you know, months and months ago. Most of the time, that's how I've been rocking it, with absolutely no connection to a phone at all. As I've started my running program, I've kind of reconnected that pathway because sometimes I actually do want to track some deeper data on my phone. Through the Casio app, you know, this thing will connect to the Casio app, upload all my training data, and then it'll push that data to wherever I want it, okay? So it'll push to like a Strava or whatever other app you're using, no problem. So that stuff actually does work. I didn't expect it really to. That's not why I bought this one, but that does work really well. So that's pretty cool, okay? So it's more connected than maybe you might think. Another thing that I personally really value with this G-Shock Rangeman is its ability to handle heat and handle cold. I'm in the sauna and I'm in a cold plunge pretty regularly. This is the first watch that I have worn in the sauna and then immediately into the cold plunge, and to handle those temperature ranges that doesn't fog up. Okay, so I can go from 206 degrees in our sauna into like 48 degrees in our cold plunge. It will get like a little mist on it when I first get in there, but it's just a quick wipe and it that's it. It's over. You know, there's no fog on the inside of the screen or anything like that. My analog G-Shocks would fog up. And then obviously the Apple Watch just couldn't even handle the heat of the sauna in the first place. And so when I was timing, you know, the different intervals and the different temperatures, I hadn't, up until this watch, found one that would actually withstand those temperature swings. Usually when I'm doing something like that too, I will be tracking my heart rate. The screen is big enough and the graph is big enough and the data is big enough that I can see all that data in the water, in the cold plunge, without having to like pull it up and look at it or wipe it off or anything like that. So I can just keep that in the water, which I absolutely love that about this. Also, like these little metal components have never heated up on me. I don't know why. You know, some people in the sauna, they can't even wear like jewelry, like earrings or necklaces or anything like that. It'll get too hot on their skin. I've never had any problems with this thing heating up to the point where it's like, I even notice it. I didn't buy it as a specific sauna cold plunge watch, but it works really, really well in that situation as well, which, you know, this is why I love this thing, because I can run with it, I can sleep with it, I can go about my everyday with it. I can hit a plunge with it. I can hit a sauna with it. I rarely have to charge it. And it just does everything that I need it to do really, really, really well. So now we have to talk about the fatal flaw. All right, this is a potential deal breaker. So a couple weeks ago, I was kind of looking at it. I just checked the time, something caught my eye, looked at it again a little closer, and one of these screws had started to pop loose, okay? So one of the screws on the lugs of the watch, on the watch band, had started to like back itself out. I was kind of looking at it when I got home that day. I screwed it back in. I just took a little screwdriver and just screwed it back in. I screwed that screw back in probably 2 weeks ago. I've been watching it really closely since then. It doesn't seem to have worked itself out in any type of way, but that is a big problem, right? So like that screw holds the watch band onto the watch case. If that screw pops out, this watch is definitely not going to be like secured to my wrist very well at all. If it doesn't fall off, I'll definitely have to take it off and then probably replace the whole watch band, which would be super annoying. That could potentially be a fatal flaw for this watch. I have seen other videos where this exact same thing has happened, so it's definitely a known issue. But if it keeps happening on this one, that might be the only thing that pushes me into like looking for another watch. Hopefully I can keep rocking this one, but that's kind of a big deal. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I have rocked this in like semi-professional events, not just like gym clothes events, you know, rocking it with a polo at a speaking event or whatever, and it fits right in, all right? So I don't think that it's so big or so ridiculous looking that it's like out of place. Again, when I'm kind of like talking about my life and like the way, you know, in the environments that I find myself in, this one just seems to just be almost like perfect and super useful in every single situation. So really, really happy with the G-Shock Rangeman. All right, guys, I think that's gonna wrap up the video. If you do have specific questions on maybe something that I missed on, go ahead, ask them below. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure, you know, another commenter will. But that's gonna wrap up today's video. As always, train hard, live full. See you in the next one.